I've officially been in Florida for 2 months now, which is so crazy to think about because being here for the holidays, I'm so used to usually coming here for the holidays and going back to New York after the holidays. But this year, Christmas, New Year's, knowing I didn't go back to New York after that and I stayed here and I've been here since. So it's definitely been an adjustment. There's things I miss so much about New York, like how walkable everything is. I miss being able to just go out of my apartment and go to a coffee shop or go to get Mexican food, all the amazing food options that were around me and the people and the culture and the life happening. And here is completely different. And I notice when I go on walks, it feels like a really long, mundane, kind of like there's a long stretch of sidewalk in front of me. And in New York, you can walk for miles and it doesn't feel like it. So I really miss that. I miss being able to just walk everywhere. But what that has been teaching me is that I've been enjoying actually slowing down and having that quiet time. Realizing living in New York City, you try to create quiet spaces for yourself. You have to go intentionally create the quiet spaces. And then I noticed in Florida, it's more naturally quiet. Last weekend, I went on a retreat and one of the speakers spoke about silence and how vital it is to our spiritual lives and how important it is to be intentional about it. And she did speak about how we often overcomplicate it and we make it more complicated than it needs to be. We don't have to go in with an agenda. We don't have to have this set, like, this is what I'm going to do in my quiet time. It's just setting your alarm for 5 minutes and not checking your phone and sitting in the stillness. She spoke about how silence magnifies what's within our hearts, and the world has so much noise and so much chaos going on that we can get so lost in it and that we lose our own voice. And so when you sit in the silence, how important that is. And she also spoke about how we're like a house and sometimes we shove all the junk into the dark corners and we hide it away. And that can be the things that come up in our silent time, the things that we try to shove to the side. But she said, don't be afraid of the dark corners and let it come out. And then she's like, what's the worst that can happen? You open up the junk drawer and all the junk falls out. Like, okay, let it fall out. And then that's room for God to enter in. So I thought it was so powerful and so profound. And after she gave this talk, she gave us time. She said, go off and have 5 minutes of quiet time right now. And usually you hear speakers and you go to these events, they often talk about these things as if it's this abstract concept, but she made it so practical and so applicable. And she really said, like, okay, go have silent time right now. Set your alarm, 5 minutes. And so we were by a pond at the time outside. The event was at a church in the church area, and this talk was outside by the water. So some people went out by the water, some people went back towards the church. I went on a bench and sat there in silence. And I set my alarm for 5 minutes, and sure enough, the 5 minutes went by so quickly. It almost didn't feel like it was enough time. So I really encourage everyone to do this practice, whether or not you're religious or spiritual or anything. Just the idea of having 5 minutes a day of pure uninterrupted quiet time where you're alone with your thoughts and to just regain a peace of mind that the world can often try to take away from us. And she talked about how silence isn't just an exterior thing, but it's an interior thing within us. And so it's about finding that stillness even when there is chaos going around us. And it was interesting to me to think of the drastic life change of moving from New York to Florida and how I was so used to being around noise and constant activity that I was really good at intentionally carving out that silence for myself. And I was more aware of it and the need for it. But moving to Florida, I've kind of lost that intentionality. So I'm trying to regain that. So this week I've been intentionally creating these moments to myself where I just go walk out to the park, I look at the pond, I look at the water, I take some moments of quiet reflection just by myself, no distractions, not even like journaling or reading a book or doing anything, but just sitting in the silence. And that can be a lot for us if we're so used to being on our phones. Because usually when I'm alone and I go out by myself, if I'm on a bike ride or if I'm on a walk, I always have my phone, I always have music on, I'm listening to something or distracted by something. I don't actually have pure, alone, quiet time. So it's simple. It's a simple practice. It's just about showing up every day, 5 minutes. Doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing. You don't have to have this whole planned getaway. It could just be go sit on your front porch, sit outside, 5 minutes, set your alarm. So that's a big lesson I've been embracing living in Florida, is embracing the simplicity and the silence and being intentional about my life in all areas. Also, I'm so excited because I just got a new camera, which I'm not filming on now. I still don't have a lens for it, but I bought the Sony a7S III. So I cannot wait to start filming on it. I just need to buy a lens, which will be coming later. Also, I started going to the gym again. Gym day one. That was really hard, and it's so discouraging when you literally can't do anything. I can't even lift the bar, can't even run. I'm like, Mikey, I can't do this. But new year, new me. We did it, Mikey.
You did it. This is freaking light work for me. What do you mean?
Yeah, that was really intense. But you gotta start somewhere. Baby steps. Just have to be consistent and persistent, and it'll get easier. But yeah, so I was on the treadmill, and what I do is I'm like, okay, let me listen to one song, and I'm like, I'm gonna run until this song is over. And then I give myself the one song. So successfully did it. And I'm focusing on spiritual growth, and I'm focusing on improving my video. In all areas of life, I just want to be the best self that I can possibly be. Because the more I think about it, the more we're really doing a disservice by not living our fullest potential. And another thing about living in New York versus living in Florida is that it's kind of the opposite, where I used to intentionally crave and create moments of silence, and then moments of culture and inspiration and art were just all around me naturally. And in Florida, it's the opposite, where silence and stillness and kind of the routine, mundane, boring life of just living in a house in the suburbs, quiet, not really that too much going on, is the opposite in terms of seeking out and creating and being intentional about the artistic, creative side of life. So I did go to an art museum in St. Petersburg, which was amazing, a few weeks ago. Or was it a month ago now? I really lose track of time. But yeah, life is just about intentionality and creating what type of life that you want to have. Depending on where your location is, you just have to be intentional about different things. So that's a lesson I really learned and am embracing. So I hope you can do the same and live a more intentional life. Whatever setting you're in, just create the type of lifestyle that you want to live. So that's pretty much it for today. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon to be notified of new videos every time I post. And I'll see you in my next video.